Hey, good morning, everybody. It's Jillian. So, if you noticed, I did delete a video over the weekend, I think on Sunday, because it had to do with like type 1 and type 2 diabetes, which is so confusing because I'm always thinking it's either or, but there's so many combinations, it's not so black and white. And so, this last week has been insane. I mean, with my friend and her dog, dealing with hypoglycemic issues and helping them through that, to then yesterday I was taken down, oh my God, by my own reproductive system because the environment is very, very aggressive. And I probably had the worst ovulation and cramps starting the period. And I wasn't expecting it. It's the 9th, and I usually get my period around the 28th, and it's like 9 days later. So I'm thinking that right now the reproductive system for most of us, if not all of us, is going to be an indicator of your environment. So I'm not 100% yet. And I'm not going to be probably until the environment calms down. And that's not going to be for a while. But I think once the environment becomes peaceful and we still stay on the J juice, then I could see my theory come to surface. But when I was talking about the hypoglycemia in animals as well as humans, and then type 1 diabetes, I didn't have the right information. So I want to make sure I have the right information. So this is for my own self as well as for all of you. So type 1 diabetes no longer produces insulin. Okay, type 2 diabetes produces insulin but cannot use it effectively. The pancreas produces it, and then it regulates sugar, and then sugar is your energy. So more insulin, less blood sugar. So when your body's producing a lot of insulin, it lowers your blood sugar, of which then people get hypoglycemic. And it's usually hypoglycemia happens when you're treating diabetes. And so I'm thinking okay, knowing this person's dog and how healthy they are, because they've been on the protocol for a while, and the dog goes into major shakes, of which then we were giving the dog the J juice and maple syrup and water. The dog finally recovered and is doing great, but it was going through some stuff, and I'm thinking I gotta Google what would cause a dog to go into such hypoglycemic attack. And so that's when I was researching diabetes and what would cause a very low blood sugar, because, we were talking about what would we have to get the dogs, because what would they do when you take to the vet? They would give them glucose, dextrose, corn syrup. They would put the dog on IV. And so my friend's like, well, I don't want to take to the vet, but I think that, with what you're saying about the electrolytes, that animals and people, all biodiversity needs glucose. And when an animal or a person goes into some kind of convulsive shakes, they're not getting enough sugar as well as enough salt. And so we need to give the dog some glucose. So that's when we were Googling what would be, what would a vet do to stabilize? And they say, and you go on Google and it says, give your dog maple syrup, corn syrup, Caro syrup, last resort honey, if that's what you have, to then get them stabilized and then take them to the vet and take them wherever. Well, my friend decided that they were going to use the Jilly Juice protocol with maple syrup and water, and the dog came out okay. I mean, it was a pretty harrowing for her because she had to stay up with the dog. She had to make sure that every single time the dog acted weird, or because she's saying, the dog had all the characteristics as if they were in some kind of hypoglycemic attack, where it was disoriented, walking into walls, all this stuff. And so, but she goes, the dog is very, very healthy, and there's all of a sudden out of the blue, she started shaking. And I'm not trying to be anybody's vet, but this is what they would do at a veterinarian, is they would go give the dog an IV with glucose and saline. and anything else, I guess, that they would administer at the time. And they would just watch the dog. They would keep the dog overnight. So anyway, so I'm looking to all this research about diabetes and viruses, and then this coronavirus, and we don't know too much about this coronavirus. And so this could be one of the viruses that could, like you've seen in the videos in China, people are convulsing in such aggressive manners. And when you have an extreme drop in your blood sugar, yeah, you go into coma, seizures, diabetic seizures and comas, and then die, like just like that. Okay, so when you have a person that's so small, like the Chinese out there, and then they get exposed to an aggressive virus like this coronavirus, and it triggers their pancreas, and it triggers to where it produces so much insulin-like hormones, and then the blood sugar drops. A person, if people don't know this type of information, they're just going to die. So that's why I posted this last weekend about maple syrup. Don't demonize sugar. Don't demonize salt, because there are people that are going to be experiencing stuff like this. And if you want to save them before you get them to the hospital or call an ambulance, you have something like this on hand, so your friend, your family, your dog, your cat, whoever that you love, your kid, doesn't pass away while you're waiting for the freaking authorities to come or the medics to come in and help you out. So, because at some point, as you're watching the news, and right now we are climbing towards the peak of this virus. Already I have a friend that's going to the hospital, a friend's friend, that they're feeling chest pains. At some point, they're going to triage and figure out who they're going to choose to bring into the ICU to then give you the IV bags and the respirators, okay? So if you don't have something that you understand what they're doing in there, then your person's going to be left to die. I mean, watching videos or reading posts in some of these groups where they're in lockdown quarantine in Italy. 16 million are under quarantine, and they have people that are laying dead in their house. Okay? Very good, Emily. People laying dead in their house because no one's going to come by and take the body away. That's how, so it means that you have to act personally to figure out what it is. You got to keep your friends, family, dogs, whatever, under control. You cannot play this down. You cannot diminish the severity. And that's why I get really pissed at my friends on Facebook that are diminishing the severity, because if an animal, and everybody's been sick in my house in some way or another. I mean, I had the worst pains yesterday of freaking dropping eggs and ovulating and then getting a period, like right there, like right off the bat. And I did have a spontaneous nosebleed a couple days ago. Okay? But I know my dog's has been under the weather, and I've been making sure she's doing okay, and she's doing fine. My husband went through, these viruses, whatever they are, whether it's a flu, influenza A, B, coronavirus, all of that. Okay, we don't know because I'm not getting tested. So all of that is going to kick your ass. And at some point, your hospitals are going to be so full of people that you're going to have to make a choice, okay, on how you take care of your family and your dogs and your cats, okay? So that's so important. That's so important. And so I had to clarify as far as the diabetes, because I've never had diabetes. People around me have diabetes, and but understanding the differences between the two, type 1 and type 2, there's really not that much of a difference, except that for how the body processes insulin, and then what are the symptoms. And hypoglycemia is usually a symptom of how it's being treated, because you're taking too much insulin, so you then have to take some sugar, because it then lowers your sugar in your body. But then I was researching about viruses producing insulin-like hormones that would then drop somebody's sugar, which could have happened to my friend's dog, okay, to where the dog was shaking. The dog she didn't know her dog's history. So this was just out of the blue. And so I really wanted to help her out, because it's a close friend. And so the dog's fine. But I'm not saying that you guys should all do that, but if, it just depends on what you are comfortable with. And if you don't know what you're doing, go see a vet. If you don't know what you're doing, go see a vet. But if you don't have the time to watch your dog 24/7, my friend did have the time to make sure their dog was okay. But if you don't have the time to make sure your animal or your child or your husband or your wife is okay, then you go talk to a professional and get that figured out. But I wanted to clarify that. As far as cancer is an imbalance in your microbiome, yeah. Because, I was tired of people blaming cancer on fungus, blaming cancer on fatty acids, amino acids, prohormones, minerals. I'm tired of people blaming cancer on viruses and bacteria and fungi and protozoa and parasites and proteins. And so we have to understand what cancer truly is, and that is an imbalance in your microbiome. And then how you deal with those imbalances. When you're taking chemotherapy, cannabis, bentonite clay, all the different holistic remedies, you're taking organs out, you're doing surgical procedures, immunotherapies, all of that, then triggers more imbalances in your microbiome, which then causes more antibodies to be produced, which of course is going to cause more imbalances, and then you have infection. So when you have imbalances in your microbiome, then you get the bacterial infections, you get the virus infections, you get the fungal infection. All infection comes from an imbalance in your microbiome. And then how you deal with that infection will also cause more infection. Okay, and it will either feed or fight whatever it is that is in your microbiome that's off balance. So that's the easiest way to put it. And so the only way to, I would say, avoid cancer is not to try to kill anything that you think is the culprit. See, when you come from the standpoint that you have to kill the fungus, you have to kill the parasite, you have to kill the proteins or inhibit the cell replication with inhibitors, glycoprotein inhibitors, all these different things, then you're inhibiting your own longevity. You are systematically just inhibiting cell replication at the micro level to where then at some point, you might trigger reproduction or fertility at the macro level, assuming you have what it takes to carry that child. And then eventually you will inhibit replication at the macro level, and that's when people die. Okay? That's when people die. So that is the lifespan of our humanity right now, is where we inhibit cell replication at the micro level, then triggers reproduction, and then it inhibits cell replication at the macro level, and that's where death occurs. And so cancer, you don't die from cancer. Cancer is just an indicator letting you know there's an imbalance somewhere. So if you have a fungal infection like psoriasis and eczema, you don't necessarily die from psoriasis and eczema, but if you allow that fungus to get out of control, then you could see cancer come up. But then what people do is they take antifungals like garlic and try to kill the fungus or control it, but then you're killing yourself. And that will also inhibit that is cell replication, and then it could potentially feed other organisms in your body that get out of control. And so you're causing more imbalances when you are taking things to control this, to control that, when you compartmentalize the different things in your body as far as the microbiome. So, and that's like anything when you're taking antimicrobials, anti-parasites, antibiotics, which is kind of like an umbrella over everything that's a life form in your microbiome. When you're taking anti-inflammatories, where it inhibits cell replication, okay, because that's where you suppress the prostaglandin hormone from actually healing you, and that's also the pain sensation that you get. So anti-inflammatories, antifungals, where you're trying to stop the yeast from reproducing, antibacterial, because you need bacteria, but taking antibacterials like the hand sanitizers and Purell, and taking like colloidal silver or alcohol or making your own hand sanitizer will destroy your microbiome, because microbiome isn't only in your gut, it's also your skin. Okay? So that's why a mild soap is just fine washing your hands. Do you need to do it for 20 minutes like they're recommending? No. People have to get used to their environment. They cannot feel like they live in a bubble because it will leave them more open. Okay? So cancer is an imbalance in your microbiome, and it's an indicator. It's not the end. It's not the end result. But when they say that people died from cancer, no, they didn't die from cancer. They died from actual cardiac arrest, or they died from pneumonia, or they died from an aneurysm or a stroke. And that's because the amount of antibodies that were built up to deal with the infection, or the amount of cells that were inhibited to replicate, to where eventually, yeah, you've inhibited cell replication at the micro level. Eventually, yeah, you're going to inhibit cell replication at the macro level, and it's going to hit your vital organs and it's going to shut you down. Okay? So no one dies from cancer. They die from the remedies dealing with cancer. Okay? So like I said before, all of the diagnoses are not something that you die from. Those are indicators. Those are your insurance policies to get your microbiome back to balance again. And so that's why we shouldn't be afraid of cancer. We should honor it as something, as Mother Nature letting you know that, at one point you were healthy, and now you're being taken it down a notch to where you're triggering a diagnosable disease like cancer. You have some freaking time if you know what you're doing, but if you let things go the way they're going and you don't change your ways, you're not going to be so lucky. The next diagnosable event, like a heart attack, stroke, brain aneurysm, pneumonia, this damn coronavirus has kicked people's asses already. So as far as me not being there 100%, like I said, the atmosphere is very aggressive. A lot of viruses floating around, a lot of stuff floating around. I mean, my dog sneezes. My husband's still kind of congested in his throat. I could hear the phlegm in his throat. I blow my nose every morning. And so yesterday I had the worst pain of ovulation. It was so bad in the morning. I had to actually take a nap and sleep through it. I didn't take anything for it. I just slept right through it. And then I woke up and I was just like, oh God, and my husband had things to do yesterday, so he was on his own. And I just laid on the couch and watched a movie, and then I fell asleep again around 3:00 because then another major cramp came through. And these cramps are from mature eggs being released. And so it's like, holy shit. I mean, it came out of nowhere. And one indicator was the day before, I felt like I had to take a nap. I'm like, what the hell? But I couldn't because I had other things to do. But I felt like I needed to. So that's an indicator. So with my period, instead of having it 2 weeks before, like it usually happens back before I did the protocol, that's what was called PMDD for me. Now it's like I don't even know I'm going to get my period until the day before, if I even listen to the indicators. Okay, now it's easier because I'm so energetic with the white salt that to see then the drop in my energy level is then an indicator that my biochemistry is shifting and I'm about to drop a freaking egg because the atmosphere is still very aggressive. Okay? And so this is the whole point of J Juice, is to listen to your indicators so you know what the hell is going on, and then you know how to read the environment, read the room, or read your friends and family, especially those that depend upon you, so you can save them at a moment's notice until you get them to then a hospital or an ER, okay, or before the ambulance come. And that way you can be relatively self-sufficient, but not 100%. But at some point, the hospitals are going to be so overrun with people in the ICU that you're going to have to take care of your own friends and family. So that's why you don't diminish the severity of this virus, because if you do diminish it, then you're not going to take very quick action. That's the whole point of J Juice, is to be so aware of your surroundings that you take quick action. Because in the beginning, when the virus first came out, I'm like, yeah, it's not going to affect us Jilly Juicers, which it's not really, but it's going to affect the people around you. Okay, so it's not just you that you're going to be protected, that you're going to be, that you're going to be basically protected from. You got to protect your friends and family in some way. Now, they're not going to do the J Juice if they're not, if they don't want to. So what do you have to do to make sure that their blood glucose levels don't drop below a certain point? What do you do to make sure that you can stabilize them before then you call, an ambulance or call 911? What are you going to do? Okay, and if you're not aware that a virus can take down an animal, take down a human that quickly, and you're like, oh, it's just a cold, walk it off. Like some people are saying, oh, it's just the flu, walk it off. Then you're being complacent. That's dangerous for your friends and family. Very, very, very dangerous. So that's why I get mad at people, because they get so complacent is dangerous for people that depend upon them. Like yesterday, I took someone off my Facebook because they're like, oh yeah, God will step in. God, I trust in God. I'm like, oh, so, you have absolutely no acknowledgement that this thing is serious. No, God is the one will determine who will live and who will die and da da da. And I'm like, this guy is he's head of household. He has a wife and kids that he is looking after, and he is diminishing the severity of this, which means he's going to ignore the indicators and allow God to take down his friends and family, or his family, because he doesn't believe he doesn't believe in doctors. He doesn't believe in the medical establishment. But no, fine. So you believe that your family should die if they can't handle this environment, and you're not really giving them what they need because you're all into this Bible stuff. It's all about the God. Okay, fine. But at some point, if you don't know what you're doing and you're already aging and degrading, you think your family's going to survive this, they may or may not. And why would you roll the dice? At least don't diminish the severity. Okay? And so that's why, I don't want to produce fear, but I have a solution, at least a temporary solution for those who are not doing the J juice. Is if those that have J juice in their house, you can mix maple syrup and water and the J juice, because that's all electrolytes. That's what's in the IV bags for people who are being stabilized from dehydration or some kind of event. And you mix that together for someone who may have an attack. Or if someone has, like a major, like they're feeling chest pains, well, that'll be up to you. Salt is a defibrillator. You add some glucose, you add some nutrition. It is now not just salt water. It is salt water with micro and macronutrition, probiotics, and maple syrup, because you get the sugar and the minerals all together. So if you want to help somebody stabilize them before they get to the hospital, you give them, whatever amount of the J juice with maple syrup and water, mix it together, have them drink it. Hopefully they can get out whatever shit that's in there, that's causing them to be really like, and then you get them to the hospital or something. I don't know. But there's nothing wrong with maple syrup. There's nothing wrong with Karo syrup, corn syrup, with the J juice and water. Okay, so those are my solutions for those that are going to be dealing with this, and they're the only ones doing the J juice, and they have to take care of their dogs, their friends, their family, or husband, wife, kids, in-laws, who the hell knows. Okay? And you have to act fast. This is not something you just like, oh, okay, well, you hope they survive it. This shit's freaking serious. This virus, whatever it is, it comes on that quickly. But it's not that that when you're exposed to it, it has an incubation period too. So you can be exposed to it and it won't hit you for like maybe 10 to 14 days later. Okay, so it does come out of nowhere. So you have no idea where you pick up this stuff. And then you start feeling the symptoms, and then you hope it's not too late. Okay? So that's why I am the way I am, because I felt it. Okay, it's not like I listen to the media and be like, oh, I'm just going to be like, react to the media. No, I'm not one of those that just react to the media like that. If I felt it in my own backyard, I'm no different than all of you. It means you guys are going to deal with it in some way, shape, or form. And you better be prepared. Now, if you're on the J juice, I'm not worried about you. But if you have friends, if you have family, if you have a husband or a wife that you depend upon, you have kids. Okay, and the hospitals are full. What are you going to do to take care of your family, your livelihood, yourself? If you're not even doing the J juice, well, you should. But at least make some fermented cabbage and kale, add some maple syrup to it to make it taste better, and maybe drink that if you're not diabetic or have other, type of issues. But I don't know. You're going to have to deal with that yourself, no matter what. So, and that's what the whole thing with the J juice is, that we have no diet on the J juice. You can eat whatever you want, and mucus is the indicator. The amount of salt in the J juice is the proper amount of salt to give you enough activity and action to get things going. But I don't have the J juice mixed with maple syrup as the actual protocol. However, I have said, okay, you can drink a shot or a cup or however much, of the J juice, and then you can take like Coke or fruit juice or water or whatever and follow it up after you drink your cup or 2 cups or a quart or whatever. It's because you want to get the waterfalls and get the activity going, but people have, like myself, have craved a shot of Coke or juice or fruit right afterwards, because it is about the sweet and the salt. I mean, salt and sugar are the two crystals the body needs. And there's a reason behind that. And then they are also demonized in the holistic and the allopathic world, because people have imbalances in their microbiome, and then they have diagnosable diseases, and then they're told to stay away from sugar and salt. And so that's why you're seeing people demonize sugar and salt, because they have no idea how to balance out their own microbiome, and they go from one extreme to the other, causing more imbalances. And that's why you see holistic people also dying from their own remedies. Okay, so this stuff is so serious, I can't even express it enough how serious what's going on. And at this point, I don't know if I've been exposed to the virus, the coronavirus. I could not have been, who knows. There's a lot of aggressive viruses going around, and it's already happening. Whether or not you get confirmation, like an actual confirmed case, that's not going to be what you should be going by. Is if there's official confirmation. Just assume that you've been exposed to it, and at some point it's going to rear its ugly head. And what are you going to do to counter it? What do you do to adapt to it? Because you can't stop it. It's already out there. Okay? So now it's about being proactive and reactive and reading the room, looking at the indicators, get your food, get whatever it is you need to make sure that if anytime that they will induce some kind of quarantine, which they're already doing in Italy, 16 million are under quarantine right now, it could happen in your town. Do you have enough supplies to carry you through for at least a month or two? Now, some people say 6 months, but that's a little extreme. But it's not out of the realm of possibility. But who can save up 6 months worth of food? People have to go to work. Can people actually not work for 6 months and still maintain? I don't know. So anyways, I got things to do, but I just wanted to give you guys that, okay? So do the J juice. Put, to the side a bottle. My hair, I hate my hair right now. I got to get my hair cut. But put to the side a bottle of the J juice with maple syrup and water, and that is your electrolyte way of helping your friends and family, your dog, your cat, whatever, to get their blood glucose if you see them convulsing or anything else that goes on, okay, from a viral trigger. So, all right, but you guys have a good day, and stay vigilant and stay aware. Don't be complacent. You can't afford to be complacent. Okay, bye.